Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to discuss one of the most powerful and emotionally rich poems of the Romantic era. That's Ode to a Nightingale by John Keats. And before we go into the poem, let's have a very brief look at the life of the poet. John Keats was a remarkable romantic poet, and I mean, despite his short life, he left behind a lasting legacy. He died at the young age of 25, but in that very short time, he gave the world some of the most beautiful and reflective poetry in the English language. His poetry explores deep themes such as beauty, love, nature, imagination, and the fleeting nature of life. Keats himself suffered a great deal. He lost both parents very early, struggled financially, and battled his illness, tuberculosis, the illness that eventually took his life. Yet, despite all this pain, Keats believed in the transformative power of imagination and poetry. Now, let's talk about the poem we are focusing on. Ode to Nightingale was written in 1819 during a time of deep emotional struggle in Keats' life. In this ode, he listens to the Nightingale song and begins to reflect on life, death, and the desire to escape human suffering through the bird's seemingly immortal and joyful music. So let's understand how this great romantic poet expresses his pain and longing and why this poem continues to move readers even today. There were many great poets who died young. But what is special about John Keats is that he knew he was going to die. He had watched his brother suffer and die from consumption, a severe lung disease. Not long after, Keats himself was diagnosed with the same illness. At the time, there was no cure. He was fully aware that he wouldn't survive. For Keats, poetry became an outlet, a way to express the thoughts and emotions that filled his mind. He poured his sort of soul into his writing, and some of his most powerful work was created during this difficult period. Ode to Nightingale, written in 1819, is one of his most famous poems. It belongs to what is known as his Great Odes, a series of poems that explore deep themes in rich emotional language. This particular ode is 8 stanzas long with 10 lines in each stanza, making total of 80 lines. It follows a regular rhythm called iambic pentameter and is known for its musical, vivid, and emotional language. Even though the poem is titled Ode to a Nightingale, we don't actually see the bird in the first stanza. Instead, the poet begins by focusing on his own emotional and physical state. The very first line starts, "My heart aches." The poet is speaking about a strange kind of pain or heaviness in his heart. Then the poet describes feeling drowsy, almost as if he has drunk something that numbs his senses. He refers to hemlock, a strong sleep inducing poison. It's a very powerful metaphor. He's comparing the emotional effect of the bird's song to being drugged or intoxicated. His senses are dulled, benumbed, and overwhelmed by the beauty and the sweetness of the nightingale's song. And to intensify this feeling, Keith uses multiple comparisons, not just hemlock, but also an opiate, another sedative. He built a strong image of mental fog and emotional stillness. The next reference is even more striking, Lethe, the river of forgetfulness in Greek mythology. By mentioning Lethe, Keats suggests he's drifting into a state where memory and conscious thoughts are fading away and all worldly concerns are forgotten. It's as if the bird's song is pulling him into a dreamlike, mystical situation. At this point, Keats finally addresses the nightingale, directly calling it, "Thou light winged Dryad of the trees." It's a very beautiful metaphor again. A dryad is a tree spirit or woodland nymph in Greek mythology. By calling the nightingale a dryad, Keats gives the bird a mystical, magical quality, making it seem eternal and otherworldly. The bird becomes a symbol of nature, freedom, and timeless beauty. He then paints a very sensuous and lush image of the bird setting in some melodious plot of beaten green and shadows numberless. Here we can clearly visualize the environment where the bird is. A green beech grove filled with countless shadows created by the interplay of trees and light. It's peaceful, enchanting, and full of natural beauty. And the language is highly visual and sensory and full of romantic imagery. Finally, Keats notes how effortlessly the bird sings. Its song represents the joys of summer and contrasts with the pain and suffering of human life. The bird seems to live in a happy, carefree world far removed from human trouble. At the end of stanza 1, the poet is overwhelmed by this sweet, enchanting song of the nightingale. He describes the bird singing in full throated ease, suggesting that its song is natural, effortless, and joyful, a sharp contrast to the pain and struggles of human life. Now, in stanza 2, Keats continues this idea of wanting to escape the harsh reality of human existence. He opens the stanza with a desire for a drink, but it's not just any drink. He imagined a draught of vintage wine, a glass of fine aged wine that would allow him to leave the real world behind and join the nightingale in its carefree world. Oh, for a draught of vintage that had been cooled a long age in the deep dwelled earth. Here Keats connects the throat of the poet to the throat of the bird. In the first stanza, the bird sings in full throated ease. Now the poet desires a draught to his own throat, one that will help him experience that same ease, joy, and freedom. This creates a symbolic parallel between the song of the bird and the poetic inspiration of all the escape the wine could offer. Keats doesn't simply ask for wine. Look very carefully, he described it richly and sensually. He imagines wine cooled in the earth, aged and full of flavor. The wine comes from the country green, bringing with it the freshness of nature. It carries the sunburnt mirth of the harvest and the joy of the rural celebration in the field. All these images are filled with life, warmth, and happiness. To Keats, this wine is more than a drink. It's a symbol of escape, beauty, and creative inspiration. Now, this Greek reference to blushful Hippocrene, Keats then refers to this blushful Hippocrene, a powerful classical allusion with beaded bubbles winking at the brim, and purple stained mouth that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest. Hippocrene is a mythical spring on Mount Helicon in Greece, believed to be sacred to the Muses, the goddesses of poetry, music, and the arts. According to legend, the spring was created when Pegasus, the winged horse, struck the ground with his hoof. By referring Hippocrene, it connects wine to poetic inspiration. He wishes for a wine that not only pleases the senses but also awakens the poet within him. A drink that gives him the power to write, imagine, and escape. The description of the wine is very, very sensual. Beaded bubbles winking at the brim. Purple stained mouth. These are vivid images that appeal to sight and taste. It shows how Keats uses rich, sensuous imagery to communicate his longing to lose himself in beauty. Now, in the final lines of the stanza, Keats expresses an urgent desire to leave the world, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest deep. He knows that he cannot reach the bird's world as a human being, burdened by pain, memories, and mortality. So he longs to fade away, to dissolve into the bird's timeless natural world through the magical effects of wine and through the imagination. This idea of fading away is very, very important. It captures Keith's yearning to escape reality without violence or force, just slowly and peacefully vanish into the dreamlike world that the bird's song represents or brings to him. Is stanza 2, Keats expresses a desire to escape reality by drinking a mythical, poetic wine that symbolizes beauty, happiness, and inspiration. He wants to forget the world and join the nightingale in his carefree existence. Through rich imagery, Greek mythology, and poetic symbolism, he shows how art, imagination, and nature can offer a temporary but powerful escape from human suffering. In stanza 3, we finally begin to understand why Keats is so desperate to escape the real world and to fade away into the nightingale's world of beauty. And if you read very carefully, you will feel now the tone shifts from a dreamlike longing to something more emotional, tragic, and philosophical. Fade away, dissolve, and quite forget what thou among the leaves hasn't never known the weariness, the fever, and the fret. Here where men sit and hear each other roar. Look at the clay. Keats longs to fade away and to dissolve like mist, and the repetition, fade away and to dissolve. The pain is so intense that he wants to forget the pain of human existence by just fading away and dissolving. He imagines the nightingale is hidden among the forest leaves and Nightingale is innocent and untouched by sorrow. What thou among the leaves hast never known. He says the bird has never known the kind of suffering that burdens human beings. He then breathlessly gives us a list of miseries, almost like a catalogue of all the things he wishes to escape. Weariness, fever, and fret. This suggests bodily pain, emotional exhaustion, and mental stress. Where men sit and hear each other groan, a powerful line evoking continuity of suffering. Where people are also full of pain that they can do nothing but groan together. They are helpless. Keats is not just speaking about himself here. This is a universal expression of human despair. And it reflects a deeply romantic belief too that the human world is full of suffering and that nature offers a peaceful refuge where policy shakes a few sad last grey hairs, where youth grows pale and says the thing and dies, where but to think is to be full of sorrow and laden-eyed despairs. These lines describe the harsh physical and emotional decline of life. Policy shakes gives a vivid image of old age, where the body loses control and strength. Even the last grey hairs are sad and trembling. Youth grows pale and saith a thing and dies. Even youth, which should be strong and full of promise, is frail and ghost-like and destined to die early. Keats talking about his own experience, maybe his own body or his brother's. He shares his agony by telling us that even thinking itself becomes a burden. Where but to think is to be full of sorrow. In a world filled with grief, even the act of thinking brings pain. Laden I despair, eyes weighed down by hopelessness. The word laden suggests suffering and even exhaustion. Keats is expressing the universal truth of life, the inescapable truth of life. We suffer, we age, and we die. And even our brightest moments fade quickly, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes. Or new love pine at them beyond tomorrow. These closing lines are especially sharp and poignant. Keats emphasizes that even beauty and love, we seem eternal and divine, are only temporary. Beauty cannot hold on to her lustrous eyes, they will lose their sparkle with time. Now, love, though fresh and full of hope, soon withers, longing for what is already slipping away. This reflects Keats' romantic view of life that while love and beauty are among the life's greatest gifts, they are also fragile, fleeting, and cannot last. Keats' desire to escape is not just personal, it's deeply philosophical and rooted in romantic ideals. The Romantics believed that the society, aging, and the burdens weigh people down. It contrasts the nature, imagination, and emotion which offer healing, beauty, and sometimes even truth. In this stanza, Keats gives us the true reason behind his longing to escape, the deep and universal pain of human life, sickness, sorrow, aging, and the short lived nature of love and beauty. His reflections are not just personal, but philosophical and romantic. The nightingale becomes a symbol of timeless joy and freedom, untouched by human suffering. Through vivid imagery and emotional intensity, Keats invites us to question, can we ever truly escape, or is our longing itself a form of poetry? And that brings us to the end of the first part of our exploration into John Keats' Ode to Nightingale. We have so far looked at the poet's emotional state, his longing to escape the pain of human life, and the deep philosophical and romantic ideas behind his words. The rich imagery, mythological references, and emotional depth make this poem truly timeless. In the next part, we will go deeper into the remaining stanzas and explore how Keats continues to build on these ideas. So stay tuned. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and bring more literature to life. Thank you for watching and see you soon in part 2.